Hello everybody and welcome to a new video. Today I've decided to create two recipes using a beautiful delicious spring vegetable rich in vitamins and folic acid. We're talking about asparagus. Let's start. The first recipe we're gonna make is an easy asparagus risotto. For a vegan option, you can replace the Parmesan and the butter that we are gonna need at the end of the preparation with the vegan substitutes. Let's start with the ingredients. We're gonna start by finely chopping the spring onion, smashing the garlic and putting both on the side. Next, we'll move to our main protagonist of the dish, the asparagus. So here I'm just cutting the very tough white parts of the asparagus and putting them on the side. I will use them for the broth, so I won't throw them away. Then I'm gonna take a peeler and peel just the bottom part of the asparagus that can be a bit harder and a bit longer to cook. As I did with the white parts, I'm gonna keep the asparagus peels because they're full of flavor that it's very important to make a delicious asparagus broth for the risotto. Now I'm just dividing the asparagus between the parts that I peeled that are harder and longer to cook and the tops that will just need a few minutes of boiling. Everything goes in a pot of salted boiling water. I'm gonna leave the tops cooking for just a few minutes until tender, while I'm leaving the bottom parts a bit longer. This is the base for the broth. So I'm gonna add in all the parts that we put aside earlier, the white bottoms and the asparagus peels to give extra flavor. Next, I'm chopping the asparagus tops in small pieces, making sure to leave 3 or 4 pieces as a garnish for the end, so I'm not gonna cut those. Great, now we're ready to start the preparation of our risotto. In a medium-sized pan, we're gonna add a little bit of olive oil, the spring onion, the garlic, and then let it saute for about 5 minutes until a little bit golden brown. Next is the turn of the rice to go into the sofrito, that is to say the sauteed vegetables, and on the side I'm keeping the broth boiling because I will need it in a short time. After a few minutes the rice should be opalescent, and that's when we're gonna add the white wine. This is how it should sound like. Once the white wine is fully evaporated, we're gonna start adding the broth. We just want to cover the rice in broth and then let it simmer on a low heat until all the first addition of broth is completely absorbed. Then we can repeat the operation until our rice is fully cooked. After the first addition of broth, we can also add in the asparagus pieces in order to allow the rice to get as much flavor as we can. At this stage, you can also remove some of the bottom peeled parts of the asparagus from the broth, chop them finely and then adding them into the risotto if you want more asparagus. Otherwise, let's just keep on going with the cooking and leaving the broth as it is. Now I tasted the rice and it's fully cooked. That took about 15 minutes, and that's depending on the cooking time of the rice. So I'm gonna switch off the flame, then adding some Parmesan, some salt and some pepper, and a dash of olive oil or a nug of butter as you want. And we are ready to plate. There's no need to say that the risotto should be eaten immediately after finishing the cooking. So let's dig in and let's move to the other recipe. I hope you enjoyed this one. The second recipe is a vegan quiche, where the asparagus mainly plays the role of decoration. In fact, the filling is mostly made of broccoli, leeks, and tofu. Let's start with this recipe. First of all comes the preparation of the veggies, starting by roughly chopping the spring onion and the leek. Next come the asparagus. Here we're just gonna separate the toughest ends that we're gonna peel in order to make them a little easier to cook through, and then cut the rest in half. I'm gonna place the asparagus and the broccoli in the same bowl because we're gonna boil all of them together. Last but not least comes the garlic that I'm gonna finely chop and place with the spring onions and leek. Now it's time to cook all our beautiful veggies, starting by the leek, spring onion and garlic that we're gonna place in a small side pan with a little bit of olive oil. In the meantime, we're gonna boil in some salted water the broccoli and the asparagus. While our veggies are cooking, we're gonna move on to the preparation of the crust. So this is a very simple dough. Some years ago, I've actually stopped buying pre-made crust that you can buy in the stores and starting making my own. It's much more healthier and really quick to make. The advantage also is that you can use any type of flour you want. Here I'm using spelt flour, semolina, and just normal plain flour. So we're gonna proceed by mixing in the flours together in a big bowl, adding a teaspoon of salt and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Then we're gonna add slowly our lukewarm water and mixing with our hands. Once all the flour and water is combined, we're gonna start kneading the dough until a ball creates, and then we're ready to spread it into our cake tin. So it's really easy, there is no time, no resting time, so it's super quick. In the meantime, our veggies have finished cooking. As you can see, we have two bowls. One just has the tops of the asparagus that we'll need as a decoration. In the other one, I put together the leeks, the broccoli, and the toughest parts of the asparagus that are gonna go into the filling. Here we are, ready to move on to the filling. In a blender, we're gonna place the veggies, the tofu, chickpea flour, nutritional yeast, oregano, and a tiny bit of salt and pepper, and we're gonna blend until smooth. Once it's all nice and creamy, we're gonna add the sun-dried tomatoes. Just cut them roughly so that we can find tiny pieces of tomatoes once we bite into the quiche. Now it's time to pour the filling into the crust. Spread it and level it up with a spatula, making sure that all the edges are about the same height, and then we're ready to bake it. The quiche is ready to go into the oven for 50 minutes at 180 degrees. It also depends on the power of your oven, but you will know that it is ready when it has a beautiful golden color and when the dough is fully cooked through. Our quiche is done baking. Now I'm gonna decorate it with some asparagus cut lengthwise, some pieces of sun-dried tomatoes, and a sprinkle of oregano. And this is how it looks inside. The filling is super soft and really flavorful, while the crust is nice and crispy. I really hope you enjoyed the video and that you're gonna try the recipe. See you in the next one. Bye!